Thank you. You're very kind. Good morning. I know that you have a lot on your agenda today, so I appreciate the discussion today. The findings of the recent audit of Visit Orlando, for me and for my constituents, are very troubling. The audit uncovered the improper classification of $3.5 million in public money as private funds, and there's numerous instances of questionable spending that raise serious doubts about Visit Orlando's fiscal accountability. These issues point not only to potential misuse of taxpayer funds, but also a possible material breach of Visit Orlando's contract with Orange County government, one that may justify a renegotiation of the terms of that contract. Now, given the scale of these concerns, I want to strongly urge the Board of County Commissioners to consider an idea that we promoted in the Florida legislature this year, and that is a required private dollar-for-dollar match for all public money that is provided to a local destination marketing organization such as Visit Orlando. Now, let me explain. I discovered actually earlier this year that per Florida law, Visit Florida, which you know is the statewide entity that promotes travel and tourism to our state, Visit Florida is required under Florida law to find a dollar-for-dollar private match for all of the public monies that we provide them through the Florida legislature. That is why I introduced Senate Bill 1110 this year to basically reflect a similar requirement for our local destination marketing organizations. Now, the reason why we advocated for this, and it did gain some bipartisan interest behind the scenes, that's why I'm bringing it forward again next year, is because when you make an organization like Visit Orlando not completely and totally reliant on public funds, it ensures a more accountable and effective use of our public dollars, particularly when there is skin in the game from the private sector, who is, of course, the primary beneficiary of those funds. Now, you know, this is clearly part of a larger conversation around TDT. I'm extremely self-aware that the reason why your hands are often tied as a county on how to use TDT funds is because of how restrictive the law is. That's why we will continue to advocate for more flexible use for counties to be able to use these dollars for real community needs, for destination infrastructure, things like public transit, things like workforce housing, all tourism related, of course, public safety. So thank you for your time. I wanted to share my concerns with you, and I'm certainly available to answer any questions that the board has today.
All right, this is the public comment period, and so I don't want to take up the time for us to ask questions at this time. So, Commissioner, I really want to move forward with hearing from the public. This is their period of time to be heard, but if you have a very quick question for the senator, please just kind of keep that in mind. This is for the public to speak, and I've limited this to an hour.
Absolutely. Very quickly, Senator, I just wanted to understand where did your bill actually land in terms of its productivity through the legislative process?
Thank you for the good question, and I'll keep my answers brief. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the extra time. So, one of the proposals that we brought forward that is related to TDT almost made it across the finish line in the Florida Senate. That was legislation that first finally allowed for counties like Orange to use TDT revenue on public transit. That would have allowed for you all to voluntarily make the decision to invest these dollars in links. You could use it to help expand the Sunrail service to nights and weekends, something that is, of course, very popular with our constituents. But also, what the proposal did was it limited what is known as the required government spending on tourism advertising. Our Florida statute is very convoluted, as you know, as it relates to how we spend TDT dollars, and a lot of people in the public are kind of in disbelief when we try to explain to them that in order for Orange County to have the right and privilege to spend TDT on community needs like transit, they currently only have a very narrow path to do so under the law as currently written. The law requires you currently to spend at least 40% of the total collections of TDT first on tourism advertising before you're able to use even a penny on transit. So in our proposal, we were actually limiting what the required government spending is, and in fact, we created a floor that said that organizations like Visit Orlando would receive at minimum $50 million in public money in exchange for the county having the flexibility to then, from there, make a decision on whether you do want to use TDT on things like public transit, in addition to your investment in tourism advertising. I'll close with this. The question the legislature has been asking around TDT, the question our community has been asking, is not whether it's appropriate for government to spend public dollars on tourism marketing. I believe that we should be spending public dollars on tourism marketing. The question is how much? Is it over $100 million a year when we have tremendous unmet community needs? That is the question in part before you today.
All right.
Thank you.
We're going to move